Welcome to the second episode of Learning Turkish Through Stories. If you watched the first episode, you already know how this lesson will continue. Basically, we will read a Turkish story. I will translate this story, and we will also examine the grammar and the vocabulary inside the story. So sometimes when we're examining the grammar structure, I will also make prompts for you to try and make some new grammar sentences with the same structure that we studied. So basically, all the stories will have different levels. Some of them will be a bit difficult. Some of them will be a bit easier. It's going to be random. So even if you have trouble understanding any of the lessons or any of the content I explain in the story, just simply try your best and listen to the story. This can also be a nice listening episode for you, so don't worry. I will also give the downloadable file for this lesson. So if you're interested, after you finish the lesson, of course, you can look at the video description to find the link to the lesson cheat sheet, where you will find the translation and also the vocabularies of this story. This lesson will be available on our YouTube, Facebook, and also podcast channel. So if you're listening this episode in our podcast channels, I would advise that you also visit the Facebook or YouTube channel, and whenever I give you a prompt to write an example sentence, you can write them as a comment in these channels, so I will check them for you. So if you're ready, let's start. So for today's lesson, I chose the story Kral ve Tohum. Kral meaning king and tohum meaning seed. This is actually a foreign language story. I'm guessing this is English. I'm not really sure. This was translated from a story written by Eric Maddern and Paul Hess. I don't know if I spelled it right. And this was translated by Dilan Ünal. Okay, so this is a short story compared to the first one. So let's read it. Bir zamanlar ülkelerden birinde yaşlı bir kral varmış. Bu kralın çocuğu yokmuş. Kral yaşlandıkça kendi yerini kime bırakabileceğini düşünmeye başlamış. İyiliksever, dürüst ve doğrulardan asla sapmayan biri kendisinden sonra kral olsun istiyormuş. Bunun için şöyle bir yol izlemiş. Adamları ülkedeki bütün erkek çocuklarına birer çiçek tohumu dağıtmış. Kral da bu tohumlardan çıkacak çiçekler arasında en güzel hangisi olursa kendisinden sonra çiçeği yetiştirenin kral olacağını ilan etmiş. Bu çocuklardan biri de Jack'miş. Jack, kralın verdiği tohumu saksıya dikmiş. Ama uzunca bir süre beklemesine rağmen saksıda çiçek çıkmamış. Annesi belki yanlış bir saksıya diktiği için çıkmayacağını söyleyince de tohumu yeni bir saksıya, başka bir toprağa dikmiş. Ama nafile yine hiçbir bitki yeşermemiş, çiçek açmamış. Sonunda kralın söylediği gün gelmiş. Ülkenin bütün çocukları rengarenk, birbirinden güzel çiçeklerle kraliyet sarayının önünde sıraya dizilmişler. Ellerinde çiçek olmayan yalnızca Jack varmış. Jack elinde boş saksı öylece duruyormuş. Kral çocukları tek tek dolaşmış. Çiçeklerine bakmış, kimini bir iki sözle övmüş ama yoluna devam etmiş. Jack'in yanına gelince onun boş saksısına bakıp "Çocuğum, senin saksında çiçek yok ki." "Evet kralım, maalesef benim tohumum büyümedi." Bu cevap üzerine yaşlı kral küçük Jack'i kucaklamış ve bundan böyle kendisini evlat edineceğini kendisinden sonra da onun kral olacağını duyurmuş. Meydandakiler bu işe anlam verememişler. Bunca güzel çiçek varken nasıl olur da saksısı boş olan bir çocuk veliaht ilan edilir diye birbirlerine sormuşlar. Ahalinin merakını kral şu açıklamayla gidermiş. Benim dağıttığım çiçek tohumlarının hepsi daha önce sıcak sudan geçirilmişti. Yani hiçbirinden çiçek çıkma ihtimali yoktu. Ama sadece bu çocuk gerçeği bana olduğu gibi anlattı. İşte bu yüzden benden sonra o kral olacak. Okay, this was a nice story, I hope. This actually was a shortened version of the story The King and the Seed, written by Eric Maddern and Paul Hess. So now let's translate each sentence from Turkish to English one by one, and while translating, we will also examine any interesting grammars that you may see, and sometimes I will also prompt you to make some original sentences with these grammars and maybe the vocabulary. Okay, this is going to be a nice lesson for you. Okay, let's start from the first sentence. Bir zamanlar ülkelerden birinde yaşlı bir kral varmış. So, you already know this. Bir zamanlar or once upon a time. So, bir zamanlar. Sometimes bir varmış, bir yokmuş is also used. So, as you remember from our first lesson, in Turkish, we tend to use the evidential past, the mış suffix. The mış suffix is called the evidential past or subjunctive suffix. And sometimes we use this suffix for, not sometimes, but mostly we use this suffix for stories. And for example, when we heard some information from someone else, but we weren't there to witness it. So this can be used similar to the simple past tense, but with a reported speech aspect in it. So it's interesting suffix and one of the most difficult suffixes for most people to master in Turkish. Especially when you combine the mış suffix with other different suffixes like the mıştı, yapıyormuş. So sometimes we can add the mış suffix after the tense, sometimes before the tense, and it can give different interesting meanings to the sentence. Sometimes we do yapıyormuşmuş, yapmışmış. So this is a combination that women tend to use a lot in Turkey when they're talking with their friends in a group of female friends, gossiping basically. So when they gossip, they tend to yapıyormuşmuş, gidiyormuşmuş. You may hear it a lot in Turkish. Okay, so let's continue. Bu kralın çocuğu yokmuş. This king had no child. Okay. Kral yaşlandıkça kendi yerini kime bırakabileceğini düşünmeye başlamış. As the king grew older, he began to wonder who could take his place. So here we have three interesting grammar points. Yaşlandıkça. So as something happened, or for example, you can use this with verbs, stem verbs. So gördükçe or yaşlandıkça, hastalandıkça. If you want to use it with nouns, so yaşlanmak, we use the lan, the lan suffix after a noun to make it yaşlanmak, to get old. Then it becomes from a noun to a verb. But most of the time, if it's with just a normal verb, for example, yaptıkça, Ahmet yemek yaptıkça insanlar eve geldi. So as Ahmet made food, people came home. Or for example, Ahmet is on the street, and as Ahmet made more hamburgers, Ahmet hamburger yaptıkça insanlar geldi. As Ahmet made more hamburgers, more people came. So dıkça is the as suffix you can attach at the end of verbs, okay? So kendi is themselves, himself, herself in Turkish. So this is the reflexive pronoun, right? Sometimes we can use it if you want to use it. He did it to himself, but in Turkish we also have the reflexive suffix. For example, sarmak, sarınmak, the ın suffix that we attach to the verbs can also give the similar meaning to the kendi verb, but this time we don't need to use the kendi with verbs that have the reflexive suffix. So yeah, sarmak, sarınmak, or we have a lot actually in the introduction to Turkish course if you're interested. I don't want to give too much detail here, but it's one of the premium courses, so you can check them out, and I have a lesson on all the different types of verbs there. Okay, so bırakabileceğini. So here we have a relative clause. So here this is a intermediate grammar. Bırakabilmek, to be able to leave, to be able to pass to somebody else. But there's also a relative clause, ceğini. So here we have the future relative clause. So this is different from the bıraktığını suffix. Bırakabileceğini, knowing he being able to leave. How will we translate this? So we can try to translate this as who could take his place. Kime bırakabileceğini. But that, if you want to further investigate this grammar, this is basically the potential mood, the future tense suffix, the relative suffix, and the accusative suffix all merged into one structure. Bırakabileceğini. Bırakabileceğini is the spoken version. So you can, if you're interested, you should definitely study the relative clause subject. The subject and object relative clause, the topic at our website. So meye başlamak, düşünmeye başlamak, to start to wonder, to begin to wonder. Meye gitti. This is the short infinitive plus the verb, any kind of tense in the verb. Meye başlıyor, meye başlamış, meye başladı. You can use these combinations. So first I would like you, if possible, to make an example sentence with the dıkça, yaşlandıkça, as the king got old. You can try to make some example sentences with this. This is the easiest one among these three suffixes, these grammar points we just examined. So try to make an example if you're watching this. If you're not, be sure to comment them. If you're listening to the podcast, later visit our page and comment it. Okay? I'll check them for you. Let's continue. İyiliksever, dürüst ve doğrulardan asla sapmayan biri kendisinden sonra kral olsun istiyormuş. He wanted someone who is benevolent, honest, and never deviates from the truth to be king after him. So here we don't have that many interesting grammar. Yapmayan, someone who doesn't, sapmayan. Sapmayan is the spoken version. Asla sapmayan, never deviates, who never deviates. So this is the aorist tense, right? Yapan, yapmayan. Kendi, again we have another kendi here. So we will see a lot of kendi pronoun, the reflexive pronoun here. Other than that, the vocabulary dürüst is honest, right? Who's benevolent is doğrulardan asla sapmayan, could be benevolent. No, never deviates from the truth is doğrulardan asla sapmayan. İyiliksever is benevolent, right? So I also have these on the sheet that you can download in the video, in the description of this lesson. Let's continue. Adamları ülkedeki bütün erkek çocuklarına birer çiçek tohumu dağıtmış. His men distributed a flower seed to every boy in the country. So here we only have the locative key, ülkedeki. This is basically which, that. But in the translation we don't have to use the which, that. Here it says in the country, ülkedeki, which is in the, it's not translated as which in the country. So the locative key is similar to the relative clause pronoun, so which and that, ülkedeki. I actually have a lesson on that also, so you can check out our grammar lessons, especially the premium ones. I explained that in more detail, and I have some lessons on the speaking Turkish in 30 days, which you can further check it out. Other than that, birer çiçek, meaning a single seed for every boy. Bütün erkek çocuklarına birer çiçek tohumu. So his man distributed a flower seed to every boy in the country. Kral da bu tohumlardan çıkacak çiçekler arasında en güzel hangisi olursa kendisinden sonra çiçeği yetiştirenin kral olacağını ilan etmiş. So this is a long sentence. Let me translate it for you. The king declared that the most beautiful flower among these seeds will be the king who grows the flower after him. So it's an interesting sentence. Basically, the king is going to make the child the new king once he leaves the throne, but he will make the child with the most beautiful flower, the king. So here we have the en güzel, the superlative structure. So en güzel means the most beautiful. So maybe you can make an example sentence with this. Sınıftaki, again the locative key. Sınıftaki en güzel kız Ayşe. The most beautiful girl in the school, at school, which is the most beautiful girl at school is Ayşe. So we use the daki for this type of structure, the locative key. Can you try to make any kind of sentence with the superlative, the en plus adjective structure? En hızlı, en güzel, en lezzetli. We also have the comparative, which is daha güzel, daha hızlı, daha lezzetli, but we need to use it with two things. For example, A is faster, A is better than B. Try to make an example sentence with the structure. And there's also the conditional suffix. Hangisi olursa, whichever it is, hangisi olursa. So this is translated as the king declared that the most beautiful flower among these seeds, kral bu tohumlardan çıkacak çiçekler arasında en güzel hangisi olursa. So normally, if you were to simply make a normal sentence with a conditional suffix, it would be Ahmet yemek yaparsa, meaning yap arsa, yap stem verb, ar our stance, sa conditional suffix. If Ahmet makes food, if Ahmet prepares dinner, Ahmet yemek yaparsa ben yerim. I will eat it. So you can also make sentences like this. I have a lesson on this. Olursa. So that there are different types of conditional suffixes. Sometimes yapsa, yaparsa, those are different. Yapsa, for example, is the unreal conditional. It's not gonna happen. But olursa is the real conditional in Turkish. If you're interested, be sure to watch the lessons I have on this. I especially have a nice lesson on this in the intermediate Turkish premium course. You can check it out if you have a premium membership. And yetiştirenin, yapanın, who will grow, yetiştirenin. Again, there's actually another relative clause. So this time, this is the en suffix, the en relative clause. I'm guessing this was the subject relative. Yetiştirenin, çiçeği yetiştirenin, who that will grow the flower. For example, we can say yemek yapanın kim olduğunu bilmiyorum. I don't know who the person who is making the dinner or who is making the meal. But there I used two relative clauses. So another simple one is, let's say, yemek yapan çocuk kim? Who is the child making the meal? Yemek yapan çocuk. This word order is really different in Turkish, the relative clause word order. So this is an intermediate grammar. You should be able to make this kind of sentence if you know at least intermediate. But if not, be sure to do lots of practice. Be sure to watch the lessons on this stuff. Okay, let's continue with the next paragraph. Bu çocuklardan biri de Jack'miş. One of these children was Jack. So nothing interesting here. Dan birisi. Yemeklerden biri. So den is the ablative. Den biri. Arabalardan biri. One of the cars. Jack, kralın verdiği tohumu saksıya dikmiş. Ama uzunca bir süre beklemesine rağmen saksıda çiçek çıkmamış. So Jack planted the king's seed in a pot, but despite waiting for a long time, the flower did not come out in the pot. Here is verdiği tohum, kralın verdiği tohum, the seed which the king gave. Again, relative clause. This story has a lot of relative clauses, both subject and object, so different types of relative clauses. So if you're not familiar with relative clauses, it is going to be difficult for you to identify what the sentence is talking about. So I would especially advise you study this topic, okay? Beklemesine rağmen, yapmasına rağmen, even despite doing X, despite doing Y. So despite waiting for a long time, uzunca bir süre beklemesine rağmen. Let's try to make a sentence with this. Mesine, masına rağmen. So we can say, yemek yapmasına rağmen. Yeah, I like to make sentences with yemek for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I'm a bit hungry today. I didn't eat that much breakfast. Kahvaltı yapmasına rağmen hala aç. Hala meaning still. Despite having breakfast, he is still hungry. Erken gelmesine rağmen Ahmet yoktu. Despite coming early, Ahmet was not there. Try to make a structure, an example sentence like this. Mesine rağmen xxx. So verb mesine rağmen. Despite the action, something didn't happen or something happened. It's up to you. Okay? I will be waiting for your example sentences. Let's continue. Annesi belki yanlış bir saksıya diktiği için çıkmayacağını söyleyince de tohumu yeni bir saksıya başka türlü bir toprağa dikmiş. Ama nafile yine hiçbir bitki yeşermemiş, çiçek açmamış. Another long sentence. Let's also translate that. When her mother said that it would not grow because he planted it in the wrong pot, he planted the seed in a new pot in a different soil, but in vain, again, no plant bushed out or bloomed. So let's look at the grammar. His mother said that maybe the plant didn't grow because her mother said that maybe the plant didn't grow because he planted it in a wrong pot. So there are actually two clauses in this phrase. Çıkmayacağını, so when she said that, çıkmayacağını söyleyince, so when she said that it will not grow because he planted it in a wrong pot, he planted it in a new pot, in a different soil. But nafile, it was in vain. Yine hiçbir bitki yeşememiş. Again, no plant pushed out or bloomed. So be sure to focus on annesi belki yanlış bir saksıya diktiği için çıkmayacağını söyleyince. That is the difficult part of the sentence. So when her mother said that this will not sprout because he planted it in a wrong pot. That is the difficult part. Be sure to focus on that. Okay, let's continue. Sonunda kralın söylediği gün gelmiş. Finally, the day the king had said had come. Nothing interesting here. Söylediği gün. The day he said. Another relative clause again. Ülkenin bütün çocukları rengarenk, birbirinden güzel çiçeklerle kraliyet sarayının önünde sıraya dizilmişler. All the children of the country lined up in front of the royal palace with colorful and beautiful flowers. Ülkenin bütün çocukları. So again, genitive clause, possessive suffix, ülkenin çocukları, but bütün as in all, right? So what kind of a lexical item this is? Adjective, adverb. This is the adjective, right? Bütün çocuklar, tüm arabalar. All the children, all the cars. Rengarenk meaning colorful. This is basically renge, renk. So color on color meaning rengarenk. So there are multiple colors. Birbirinden güzel. So birbirinden is actually a comparison. Basically meaning they all look beautiful compared to each other. So it is translated as beautiful flowers, but birbirinden güzel means one is better than the other in the structure when you translate it grammatically. So dizilmek is an interesting verb meaning to take line, to line up. Let's continue. Ellerinde çiçek olmayan yalnızca Jack varmış. So only Jack had no flowers in his hands. So olmayan Jack, yapmayan, olmayan, görmeyen insan. What the child who doesn't have, the man who doesn't do, the boy who doesn't go to school. Okula gitmeyen çocuk. The boy who doesn't go to school. So you can try to make an example with this. This is the relative clause, yapmayan, the an suffix actually. If you know relative clauses, try to make an example sentence with this. Jack elinde boş saksı öylece duruyormuş. Jack just stood there with the empty flower pot in his hand. So just stood there meaning öylece durmak. So meaning without, looking blankly. Okay. We're almost at the end. Kral çocukları tek tek dolaşmış, çiçeklerine bakmış, kimini bir iki sözle övmüş ama yoluna devam etmiş. The king looked at the flowers whose children wandered around one by one, praised some of them with a word or two, but continued on his way. Tek tek dolaşmış. So one by one he wandered, he looked at the flowers, he praised some of them, but continued his way. Jack'in yanına gelince onun boş saksısına bakıp the up suffix after looking at it. So the up suffix, we actually learned this in the episode 1 when we're talking about two actions happening not simultaneously but one after the other. So bakıp gördü, bakıp konuştu. So he looked at it and talked. So here it is contracted, but we actually see the second verb after büyümedi, bakıp büyümedi, bakıp gördü, bakıp şaşırdı. Looked at it and was astonished. Here it says, when he came to Jack, he looked at his empty flower pot and said. Here in the translation, you can see that there is a said, the word looked and said. Here we didn't include this, in the story it doesn't include it, but you can say it as bakıp söyledi, which is the same. Çocuğum senin saksında çiçek yok ki. My child, there are no flowers in your pot. Evet kralım, maalesef benim tohumum büyümedi. Yes my king, unfortunately my seed didn't grow. Maalesef, unfortunately. We can use it a lot in spoken Turkish. Bu cevap üzerine yaşlı kral küçük Jack'i kucaklamış ve bundan böyle kendisini evlat edineceğini, kendisinden sonra da onun kral olacağını duyurmuş. Upon this answer, the old king embraced little Jack and announced that he would adopt him from now on and that he would be king after him. So here kucaklamış, Jack'i kucaklamış kral. Edineceğini, yapacağını, göreceğini. So we can use multiple relative clauses in such a sentence. Ahmet'i göreceğini, ona yemek yapacağını, Ahmet'le dışarıda dolaşacağını söyledi. So he said that he would meet Ahmet, make food for him, wandering outside. So this is also a conjunction in its own. So it's like we can merge multiple sentences into one. Simple like yemek yapacak ve gidecek ve. This is the intermediate advanced level ve. If you're interested in using it. And we can use it a lot in spoken Turkish. Let's continue. Meydandakiler bu işe bir anlam verememişler. The people in the square could not make sense of this. And they said, bunca güzel çiçek varken nasıl olur da saksısı boş olan bir çocuk veliaht ilan edilir diye birbirlerine sormuşlar. How can a child with an empty pot become crown prince when there are so many beautiful flowers, they asked each other. Varken. Again, I think we saw the can suffix. Maybe not this one, but in the earlier lesson. Varken, yapıyorken, yaparken, while. This is the while suffix. While or when. Actually, when suffix, not while suffix. So when there's so many beautiful flowers, nasıl olur da? How come? How can? How come? Boş olan, saksısı boş olan bir çocuk. A child whose pot is empty. Again, a relative clause. So again, we have a lot of relative clauses. Diye birbirlerine sormuşlar. Report to speech. Now we have a report to speech. They asked each other. ... They said. ... They asked each other. Report to speech was also interesting. Reported and direct speech are important topics that you should definitely study if you want to master Turkish. Maybe you want to enter the TYS, the Turkish Proficiency Exam. These are going to be one of the challenging topics for you. Let's continue. Ahalinin merakını kral şu açıklamayla gidermiş. The king satisfied the curiosity of the people. Ahali is the people, the citizens, with the following explanation. Benim dağıttığım çiçek tohumlarının hepsi daha önce sıcak sudan geçirilmişti. Yani hiçbirinden çiçek çıkma ihtimali yoktu. All of the flower seeds I scattered had been pre-washed with hot water, so there was no chance of blooming from any of them. Dağıttığım çiçek, the flowers that I distributed, hepsi, all of them, daha önce, daha sonra. Again, a comparative structure, but this time is talking about the time. Benden daha önce yaptı. So, this is not the same as benden daha önce. This is daha önce as in time. Daha önce okula gittin mi? Did you go to school before? This is a bit different, but we can see that comparative structures are not just comparatives as in comparing two things, but sometimes there are not two things, just a simple thing, one thing, but we talk about the time instead of comparing material things. Geçirmek and geçirilmek. So geçmek, is pass. Geçirilmek is to have it pass or to move it involuntarily. So sudan geçirilmek meaning to put underwater, to wash underwater. Yani, so, hiçbirinden çiçek çıkma ihtimali yoktu. So there was no chance of blooming from any of them. And finally, ama sadece bu çocuk gerçeği bana olduğu gibi anlattı. İşte bu yüzden benden sonra o kral olacak. But only this boy told me the truth as it happened, and that's why he will be the king after me. Olduğu gibi anlatmak. Say it as it happened. Tell it as it happened. Tell me the truth. So there's interesting grammar, a lot of interesting grammar in this story. As I mentioned before, if you're interested in reading the story by yourself, I will put a link in the description. You can read the story at your own pace and also look at my notes that I put down for this story, and maybe also examine the vocabulary for the story. So there are going to be lots of interesting things that you can examine and learn just from this story. We came to the end of this lesson. I hoped you had fun watching or listening to my lesson. So if you liked it, be sure to give a thumbs up or like or heart or whichever platform you're using it, and share it with people who are also interested in such lessons, who are also interested in learning Turkish through stories. If you're listening to this lesson on podcast, especially on Apple Podcasts, be sure to give us a star, 5 stars if you liked it a lot, and maybe write a review, because in that way the algorithm will help us reach more people without costing you anything. So please do that. I will be thankful if you do that. So before we finish the lesson, I want to talk about something. So most of my students who are learning Turkish have difficult time pronouncing Turkish words correctly. So they're afraid of sounding incorrect, and sometimes they're afraid that people make fun of their pronunciation. I mean, I also have trouble, even though I've been speaking English for a long time, I also have trouble with pronouncing certain words. So this is the same for people who are learning Turkish. So even my advanced level learners who know a lot of grammar, who can speak fluently, cannot pronounce certain words or use spoken Turkish, and they instead use written Turkish, which is different. So in Turkish, actually, there are 29 letters, you know them, but there are 35 sounds, and there are things called allophones, which will even increase this number to maybe 40 sounds. And certain letters have multiple pronunciations depending on their position inside the word. For example, a combination of letters will be pronounced different, and if a certain letter comes before or after a letter, for example, if a vowel is before or after a certain noun, the pronunciation can differ. So as I mentioned before, even though Turkish is a phonetical language, written Turkish, the one that you would read on a textbook, and spoken Turkish, the one that you will hear in television series, movies, outside when you're walking, is not the same. It's different. And unfortunately, most courses you may have watched or attended or even went to in Turkey don't teach spoken Turkish. They don't teach anything regarding Turkish, the spoken version. So, is there a correct way to learn both written Turkish and spoken Turkish? Well, now there is. So with the upcoming new Turkishaholic website that I mentioned to you multiple times probably, you can enroll in this new Turkish course I made called Project Blue. So this is a 6-level course. The course will start from A1 level and go until C2 level, so proficiency level. And this will be one-of-a-kind course. So if you want to learn Turkish at your own pace at home, but want to learn it in a logical way instead of just memorizing dialogues and etc. And if you want a comparison of the Turkish grammar with English, so if you want to understand why we're saying this, but in English it's actually used like that with a logical method, this course will be the only course you will going to need in the future. And I will have a really special offer for you if you don't know yet. As I mentioned earlier in our other lessons, we currently have a single one-time offer that's going to be almost coming to an end. So this offer is, if you become an unlimited member at our Turkishaholic website, which is priced at 125 euros, you will get free enrollment into the 6 separate Turkish courses that I'm going to publish with the new Turkishaholic website. So as you know, the membership system in Turkishaholic will be closed. So what does this mean? This means that once the new website is up, you won't be able to just get access to everything with a membership. You will have to individually buy each and every content, premium content. But the good thing is I'm making this offer. So instead of paying more than 3,000 euros, which you will see when they are all published, for each and every new Turkish grammar course, the Project Blue course, for only 125 euros, you will get free enrollment in all of these courses when they get out, when they are published, okay? This is a special offer. This is not going to happen anytime, anywhere, once the website is up, the new website is up. So if you miss this offer, this will be it. But here's another thing. So I'm not just giving away these 3 courses for free with just this price. You will also get free enrollment to the supplementary exercises for all the 6 levels. And these will also cost probably around more than 1,500 euros. So these will be 6 separate course packs, additional supplementary exercises. They will have vocabulary exercises, speaking, writing, listening, different kinds of exercises not included in the main course because I don't want to include too many exercises to make it too difficult. But if for people who want to do even more exercises specific to the grammar lessons I mentioned, these will be purchasable separately. But you don't have to do that if you become unlimited member, okay? But here's the thing, it doesn't end here. You will also get free enrollment to my first 5 of the courses of the new functional Turkish series. So I plan to make maybe around 50 functional Turkish series. So this will be basically similar to the free Turkish conversation lessons, the dialogue lessons that I published on our social media channels, where I choose a topic and I give you example dialogues about it. But this will be a newer, updated, and even better version connected to the grammar course. And each lesson, each course pack, each one of the series will cost around 300 euros. So 5 of them will be around 1,500 euros. Again, it's going to be expensive. My new pricing will be nothing compared to the current price. So if you become an unlimited member, you will get access, free enrollment to the 6 courses, the 6 supplementary exercises, and 5 functional Turkish exercises. So these are worth maybe 6,000, maybe 8,000. It depends on how I put the pricing. And I may even add more into this offer. So this is not limited to only these 3 contents, these special contents. I may add even more stuff inside this. And this offer will give you lifetime access. So you don't have to buy anything else. You will get free updates, lifetime updates. So whenever I add anything new to these, you will just get it for free without paying additional thing. And you will get lifetime access to me. You can always ask me questions. If you're stuck with something, you can simply contact me from that system. You will see an announcement video I will make about it. Don't worry. But as I mentioned before, this is a limited time offer. So I have decided to open this offer until the end of July. So we're nearly at the end of June. So I'm going to open this offer until the end of July 2022. And once this offer is closed, I am permanently closing new signups for unlimited membership. So there won't be any premium. There will just be bronze membership, which is 1 month of accessing my current premium content. Even with unlimited membership, you will still get access to my current premium materials. But when the new website is up, you get free enrollment to the other new materials. So you're not going to lose anything by becoming unlimited membership. You will get access to the current ones and also the new ones without paying anything else. Okay. So as I mentioned, it's only 125 euros for 6,000 to 8,000 euros worth of material. Okay. If you are interested in becoming an unlimited member but still have questions on your mind, anything, you can write a comment below. If you're listening to the podcast, please visit our YouTube channel and you can write a comment below. Additionally, you can write an email to me at info@turkishaholic.com. Send me an email there asking for questions and I will get back to you as soon as I can, normally within 6 to 8 hours. And This offer, as I mentioned, is limited in space and quantity and time. So don't miss this. If you miss this, you may regret it because you'll see it when the time comes. Okay? So thank you again for joining me in this lesson. I hope you liked it, and I will see you again in our next lesson. Take care.